a haunted house in Texas. The year is 1979, and two young couples have decided to move into an old house in the small town of Hempstead, Texas. It's a beautiful colonial-style home with white columns and balconies, perfect for raising a family. But there is one slight problem. The ghost hunters say that the house is haunted. But do they listen? Of course not. What do they know? They move right in. That night, however, they wish they had listened to the experts. As soon as the moon rises, the sounds begin. Heavy footsteps creaking up the stairs, disembodied voices whispering throughout the rooms, and objects moving on their own. Was the house angry that they had moved in without asking permission first? They weren't sure. One day, after hearing a series of loud bangs coming from the attic, they decided to investigate. That's when they discovered something shocking. All of the boxes in the attic had been neatly organized and lined up against the wall. But just hours before, they were all over the floor. Shaken but intrigued, they decided to stay. Over the years, the couple and their children grew accustomed to the strange activity, and some of the apparitions became regular visitors. They would often see the ghosts of a woman and her child walking down the hallway, or hear the faint echoes of a rocking chair on the porch. Sometimes they even felt cold spots or smelled the aroma of freshly baked bread, even though no one was around. After many years of paranormal activity, the family finally decided to leave. When the new owner came to view the house, they too experienced strange activity, including seeing a little girl in a Victorian nightgown and a man in an old-fashioned top hat. So they too decided not to buy the house. Some say the ghost of the former owner refuses to let anyone else live in his home, and others claim that the spirits are simply protecting the property until the rightful heirs return. Whatever the case may be, it seems that this haunting will continue for many years to come. A mysterious shadow caught on camera. This story comes from a Reddit user who witnessed something truly terrifying while visiting his friend's mother-in-law's house. While exploring the home, he came across a room full of antique medical equipment, including an iron lung. Suddenly, he felt a cold spot, and then saw a shadow of a man in 1920s clothing standing at the end of the bed. Startled, he ran to get his phone to take a picture of the apparition, but when he returned, the shadow was gone. Then, as he reached for his phone, he noticed something incredible. In the photo he had taken of the empty space, a shadowy figure was visible. Although the story doesn't explain it, some speculate that this could be the ghost of a Civil War soldier. During the war, iron lungs were used to help soldiers breathe, and it's possible that the apparition was simply a nurse or doctor tending to a patient. Others believe that it could be the ghost of a former owner who passed away in the home. However, we may never know for sure. Mysterious boy. Reddit user El Duco was at home one evening when he heard loud footsteps in the attic of his home. He assumed that it was his wife, but when he called out to her, no one answered. Curious, he went to investigate. As he climbed into the attic, he heard the footsteps stop. But just as he turned the corner, he saw a pair of legs and feet running across the attic floor. Before he could react, the footsteps disappeared. Thinking it was a prank, he went back downstairs and waited for his wife to finish her work. When she came down, he told her about the noise, and she replied that she hadn't been in the attic. But then he remembered something. His son had been sick recently, and had stayed in their guest bedroom on the second floor. Could the boy have been playing by himself? He walked back upstairs to check and found him lying in bed asleep. But that wasn't the only thing he found. There in the corner of the room was a rocking horse, and when he touched it, it was freezing cold. To make matters worse, they had no idea where it had come from. They searched the house and couldn't find another rocking horse anywhere. Did the boy make it up, or was there a sinister presence in their home? They can't be sure, but they'll never forget the night that their son brought home a ghost. A ghostly encounter in the train station. One Reddit user shared an eerie experience that happened when he was working as a security guard at a train station. One day he was patrolling the platform when he heard a loud bang followed by the smell of burnt metal. Thinking it was nothing, he continued on his way. Then he heard a voice behind him say, "Did you see that?" He turned around, but there was no one there. Assuming it was a prank, he continued his rounds. Then he heard the voice again saying, "Did you see what I did?" He responded, "See what?" And then the voice whispered, "I killed him." Shaken, he started to feel uneasy and quickly made his way off the platform. But the voice followed him, saying, "He deserved it. I had to do it." Still unsure of what was happening, he kept moving until he could hear the voice no longer. The next morning, he read in the newspaper that a man had fallen onto the tracks and been killed. But that wasn't the only thing that had happened. The train that had been scheduled to depart that evening had been cancelled due to an unknown mechanical error. Had he prevented a tragedy by listening to the ghostly warning, or was it just a coincidence? We may never know for sure. Ghostly footsteps. Reddit user Steve the Penguin was hanging out in his basement one day when he heard some strange noises. At first, he thought it was nothing more than the pipes making noise. But then he realized it was footsteps. Loud footsteps. Big, heavy footsteps. Were they human or something more sinister? He wasn't sure, so he grabbed his camera and started filming. Then he heard a knock on the basement door. Startled, he stopped filming. Then he heard the knock again, and that's when he knew something was wrong. He slowly opened the door to the basement stairs and saw a set of footprints in the dust. But there was no one there. Or something else entirely. He still doesn't know, but he's glad he captured the evidence on camera. While walking through the abandoned building, they heard a loud bang followed by the sound of someone screaming in pain. Startled, they stopped in their tracks. Then they heard the sound again, closer this time. Inside was a room filled with old medical equipment and a gurney in the center. But that wasn't the only thing that caught their attention. Was this the source of the noise? They weren't sure, but they decided to stick around and find out. They ran out of the room and down the hallway, not stopping until they were outside the hospital. As they caught their breath, they looked back at the building and saw a figure standing at the window. Ghostly Orchestra. This story comes from a Reddit user who was visiting New York City with his girlfriend one night when they decided to take a late-night stroll through Central Park. As they walked along the path, they heard the sound of music coming from a nearby gazebo to them, and the instruments appeared to be made of ectoplasm. They stood there mesmerized by the music, not wanting the performance to end. But as quickly as it began, it was over. An unsettling visit. One Reddit user shared a spooky story about a visit from a ghost. He assumed that his roommate had come home early, but when he called out, no one answered. But when he turned on the lights, the feet vanished. He slowly walked down the stairs and saw a pair of feet at the bottom. He called out again, but there was no answer. Standing behind him was the shadowy figure of a man. He screamed, and the ghost vanished. From ghostly encounters to unexplained phenomena, these stories will give you goosebumps and leave you questioning the unknown. Now it's your turn to share your experiences. Have you ever seen a ghost? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling stories. Until next time, happy haunting.